In 3.5 years since graduating university, I have tripled my net worth, and this is how I did it. So I need to caveat this with the fact that since I've graduated, I have actually purchased the property that I'm living in right now with my partner, and I'm ignoring my student loan, but I've ignored those purposefully for this video because my net worth has increased despite having those things. Those are just kind of like additional things that have increased my net worth even more. So let's talk about what actually is net worth. On paper, net worth is your assets minus your liabilities, which is basically like things that you own that are yours, that are 100% yours, that are worth some kind of like monetary value, less things that are not yours or that you owe money on because they're not yours yet. So like leasing cars, credit card debt, any kind of loan, an overdraft, anything that's kind of negative or would cause you to be negative in numbers is a liability. And net worth is often referred to when you're talking about like high net worth individuals, so people who have significant investments in property and stock. So that's why sometimes it's hard to think of net worth being something that you can have, but it's something that all of us have, because if we have money in our bank account, if we have more money in our bank account than we do credit card debt, there's going to be a positive net worth there. There could be a negative net worth as well, but it's the things that I'm going to talk about in this video that will hopefully get you from a negative to positive, like I have done for myself since graduating university. The first thing I did was prioritize paying off high interest debt and my overdraft. Kind of treated my overdraft for ages like a bit of a security blanket, which is probably something that a lot of people do, but it's something that will hold you back if you do want to get reward credit cards, if you want to get a property, if you want to do anything that involves having your credit checked, because that's not a very good financial situation to be in, to be constantly owing the bank money. And also I think something that we all forget as students is that the bank can recall an overdraft at any point in time without that much notice or notice at all. So if you're in a situation where you constantly owe 1 to 2, maybe even more grand at any given time, that's a hugely risky situation to be in, and probably isn't that bad if you have parents you can rely on or a job that gets you on a pretty financially safe trajectory. For any other person, I think trying to get out of your overdraft as soon as you can at a speed that's comfortable for you is something you should prioritize once you have the stability of a job and you know you've started your adult period of life. The way I did this, and I paid off my overdraft and some high interest credit card debt quite quickly, is by just planning. And I say just, it wasn't just. I kind of forecasted myself for about 2-3 years to pay this off. I forecasted based on the fact that I wouldn't get any promotions, that I wouldn't get any new money coming in, so that when new money did come in, I could just put it straight towards the debt. So that my plan was kind of like, this is the minimum like viable scenario and how long it's going to take for me to get this debt paid off if nothing changed from today. So I made the plan and I stuck to it, and I made the plan something that was doable for me. So I wasn't planning for myself to put all of the extra money I would earn towards my debt, because that would leave me with no money to spend to have fun, and it would mean that because I wasn't having fun with any money, I wasn't able to then stick to the plan long term. The second thing is that I've also been very lucky since about 17 or 18 to have always had some kind of like part-time job before I graduated, which means that with my employers, the pension pot was kickstarted quite early, and my contributions to this have been ongoing since, you know, the last, how old am I? 8 years. So because of this, I've got the advantage of time on my side for when my pension has started growing, and it also means I'm kind of more aware since starting my full-time job that my pension contributions should be kind of a significant amount, so that I'm taking advantage of the tax-free money that's going in to the pension in the first place. I've also logged into my actual pension account and just made sure that the money is being invested somewhere I want it to be invested in, so it's in kind of like a higher risk equity based fund. This means that I can take advantage of the fact that I've started my pension early and that time is on my side when it comes to investments and the compounding process of interest. The third thing is that I've started investing and automating this process. The automating being the most important part, because it means that for the many months that I've forgotten I even invest, it's been going on in the background. I started investing with the smallest amount, and I'm pretty sure it was £25 a month, because I was way too scared to put anything more than that, and I also didn't have that much money to play around with in case like I lost it at any point in time, even though it wasn't money that I was going to need in the short term, but I was just nervous about losing money in the stock market at the time. So starting off with £25, and also because at the time I invested this £25, I started a journey of educating myself about the stock market, about the investing process, about equities, about funds, about shares, everything, which meant that I slowly but surely learned that I could invest more and more while building my emergency fund. So I was still being smart about the whole thing, learning as I was investing, which meant that I was becoming more efficient with my investments over time. Because of all the learning and educating I did for myself, it meant that when I did have like promotions, bonuses, or any extra money coming in, I knew that I should be prioritizing my investment account. So every time I readjusted my standing order to the investments or, you know, my budget, the first thing I did look at was, can I increase my investments before then treating myself with something on my wish list, which is something I do often. Through all the educating myself I did as well, I recognized that as someone in my early 20s at the time I started investing, I really had the amazing advantage of time on my side. Like I said earlier, when it comes to the interest on the investments compounding into huge gains over time. I also increased my income by accident by starting this YouTube channel, which also led to me starting my TikTok and also taking Instagram a little bit more seriously than the last few years. And this has led to income by way of brand sponsorships and affiliate income, and obviously the YouTube advertising income. While this wasn't planned, it's been a way that I can increase my income in small amounts that, again, I just think about reinvesting into the channel, into you, or investing into my savings and investments themselves. Starting and being active on the social media channels I do run has also kind of led into a whirlwind of personal development. This has allowed me to focus on things that increase my income even further, and to be honest, kind of helps me to grow and has helped me to grow a growth mindset. I move away from the scarcity mindset that I definitely still have, but had for the majority of my life, just based on the way I grew up and, you know, family situations and the way you grow up around money and the way you kind of interact with money as you're becoming more and more independent. So the move away from your scarcity mindset has kind of led to me thinking about how efficient I can be with my time, with the hours I work, with the income I earn, and more importantly with the money I spend, and how I can be smarter about that and be more humble and, you know, spend less with my ego. I also got into the habit of budgeting fairly early. I say early, but I put off doing it for so long that I don't actually know how early it was. But this is most likely, and in my opinion, the most important step you can take to increasing your net worth. Simply running a budget every time you get paid is a really active way of looking at your spending and thinking about how you can change it for the better. The compounding effects of budgeting are a better awareness of how you spend, where you spend, and whether you need or want what you are spending on. And eventually mastering the practice of budgeting is going to lead to a higher net worth. It is. This also gets you into the habit of saving, which eventually gives you more freedom into how you can choose to save, spend, or invest your money. And I also want to talk about, you know, why my net worth was pretty low when I graduated. And it was because of my overdraft, as I mentioned before, credit card debt, and my student loan. And that's kind of ongoing still. And I simply just owed more than I owned, which is a very normal situation to be in when you graduate. So I really want you to, you know, hear me say that. The average graduate who isn't coming from generational wealth is not going to have a super high net worth when they graduate, but it is the kind of small habits that I've spoken about in this video that are going to compound into being able to get yourself out of that either negative or low net worth situation you have when you graduate from uni. So if you're watching this as a recent grad or someone who's about to graduate, just take the points that I've spoken about in this video as small actions that you can kind of set in place now, starting a budget, having a look at investing platforms and starting a really small monthly standing order, automating your savings or your investments, thinking about ways you can increase your income. You probably have the most free time when you graduate than any other time in your working life. So are there any ways you can kind of monetize your habits or your free time? Not to say you should be monetizing absolutely everything all the time, but have a think about how you can do this, because it leads into a little bit of personal development and efficiencies that you can think about that could even change your career trajectory going forward. These are all small actions that will compound, and you'll see the effects of them in 5 to 10 years time, I promise. And they could compound slower, they could compound faster, but the benefits of doing these things will be visible to you, and it's the best thing you can do for yourself right now. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.